Let's face it, running your own interior design business can feel overwhelming. But guess what? You don't have to do it alone. I am so excited to introduce a brand new way to get the support you need. One-on-one mentorship with me, Laura Thornton, your interior design bestie. In just one focused hour, we'll dive into whatever you need most, whether that's pricing strategies, client management, presentations, attracting clients, building up a repeat business, or just getting out of the hamster wheel. You'll get clarity, strategy, and expert advice based on my 28 years of running a thriving business and over the last decade, a seven-figure design firm. This is your chance to get real answers to the questions you've been dying to ask from someone who's actually been there and is currently still walking the walk. Book your session as you need it. There are no strings attached. You'll walk away with personalized, actionable advice that you can implement right away. One-on-one, 1-hour sessions as you need it. Head to the website or click the link in the show notes to book your mentorship session, and let's build a beautiful, profitable business that you've been dreaming of together. Today, let's talk about getting your business seen, not just on social media, but in places where dream clients may actively be searching. Today's episode of the Business of Beautiful Spaces podcast for interior designers, I am joined by Julia Bocchese, an SEO and Pinterest strategist who helps creative entrepreneurs get found online without dancing on reels or posting daily. Julia breaks down how interior designers can use Pinterest as a search engine and not as a social platform, and how to make SEO feel less overwhelming and more like a long-term visible strategy. And if you're ready to attract more clients and you're ready to see who's already out there looking for you, this episode is a must. Hi there, interior design lovers. Welcome back to the Business of Beautiful Spaces, the podcast where we blend design inspiration with all behind-the-scenes tips and tricks you need to thrive in your business. I'm your host, Laura Thornton, and with over 27 years in this interior design game and running a seven-figure design company, trust me, I've seen it all. I want to be your interior design bestie. I want to help you build the business of your dreams, make more money, and yes, ditch the stress along the way. I've been doing this for a long time, and now I'm sharing my knowledge with all of you, my fellow designers and decorators. All I ask in return is that you like, review, and follow this podcast wherever you listen, so other designers can find us and learn more too. So grab a coffee, get comfy, and let's dive into making 2025 your best business year yet. Welcome back to another episode of the Business of Beautiful Spaces. Thanks for joining me today, Julia. I'm super excited to talk about the SEO. I know it's a massive, massive topic that we're going to have to try and pare down, but can you tell our listeners and myself how you got into this industry?
Yeah, so thanks for having me. It is a huge topic, so I'm going to try to just kind of stick to the easiest points so don't freak everyone out. Yeah, I started my business a little over 8 years ago. When I first started, I was just kind of like freelancing, mostly writing content for small businesses. I learned, SEO and other marketing skills for a travel photography website that I actually started, I think 10 or 11 years ago. So I was implementing a lot of those SEO strategies in the content that I was writing for these small businesses. And then I realized that they didn't really understand why I was doing these different things or why they were all of a sudden getting more traffic from Google. So that's when I kind of realized that a lot of people, didn't really understand SEO or want to understand SEO. So that's when I started focusing on, doing more SEO strategies and then also focusing a lot on user experience to kind of help once people land on the website, make it really easy for them to learn about your services and who you are and, where you're located, and then be able to contact you to inquire about your services.
And again, it's so vast, but I know that as a designer who's constantly trying to utilize copy and things on our website with blogs and things to kind of always have this I almost called it SEO happening in the background. I know that there's a lot of overwhelm that comes with knowing what to do and what not to do, because that's, again, not our forte. But how would you break down what it actually would mean for a small business owner in plain language, but also how important it is for a website?
Yeah. Yeah, so kind of just in super simple language, SEO is the practice of making sure Google understands what your website is about and what it should be ranking for. There are over 200 different ranking metrics that, we're not going to go into all
Wow.
200. But and some things matter more for like, larger websites or product websites, things like that. So not all 200 are relevant to like, small businesses. But it's basically just making things very clear to Google, which also helps, make things very clear to potential clients to understand what you do, where you're located, who you help, things like that. And then why it's important is because when people go to Google to search for, the services that you offer, if you're ranking, on the first page of Google, then you're much more likely to be able to convert them to a client rather than if you're, on the 10th page of Google. Most people, I would say probably like over 90% of people aren't going to the 10th page of Google. So when you rank on Google, it's much easier to convert them. And then it's also not something that you need to be showing up on daily. So it can save you a lot of time. So whereas on like Instagram or, Facebook or something like that, you need to be continuously active on there, engaging with people, replying to comments, showing up in stories, things like that. And then all of the followers that you have may not actually convert to clients. They might just follow you because they like that, the pretty pictures of the designs that you're doing, or they might like who you are and, just want to follow along with your story. But when people go to Google to search for a specific service, they're much more in the mindset that they're ready to hire someone. They're ready to, purchase something. So it's a lot easier to convert because they're a bit more of a warmer lead than someone who may just be following you on Instagram, but they might not even live in your area or your country or things like that.
Yeah, because there was a time where like you had a website and you didn't touch it for 5 years. And it
Hmm.
just lived out in the land of the WWW. And like, you never thought about it. And now it's something
Hmm.
that needs to be on your to-do list every month or
Yeah.
however. It's not something that you can leave. So as we, the scary AI world is becoming prevalent in every
Hmm.
aspect of our design businesses. How is this, I keep hearing um stats about how AI, like ChatGPT search is
Hmm.
taking over Google. So
Hmm.
now we've, we shifting into AI SEO? Is there a different name
Hmm.
for that? And what does that look like? And
Hmm.
how do we tackle that monster?
Yeah, so I actually think they go hand in hand. I will say I don't think ChatGPT is taking over searches. I am seeing with my clients that like they are getting more traffic from ChatGPT, but it's still like
Interesting.
much, much lower than like SEO or even
Google.
social media traffic. So it's happening, but not taken over quite yet. But a lot of things with, if someone is searching in ChatGPT for like, they're going to get much more specific. They're not going to be like searching interior designer near me because you can just go to Google for that. They may be searching for like interior designer, in Philadelphia who focuses on families or focuses on luxury design or they're adding a few more words in it at least or they might be searching for like women owned interior design firm. I also see a lot of people who are searching for like who has availability in the next month or something like that.
Hmm.
I'm seeing that more with photographers than like interior designers, but that may be something that could be happening because a lot of times with interior designers and other creative industries, they're booking out several months, if not a year in advance. So some people want to know when someone is available. So if you have on your website like now booking projects for October 2025, something like that. That can help when people are searching for those more like, timeline phrase searches in ChatGPT. So the reason that it goes hand in hand is website copy is really important for SEO because the more information that you put on your website, the more Google understands, what to rank you for. And then also the more information that you have, the more it's going to help potential clients who land on your site because you can give them all the answers that they need right then and there. They don't have to like search for where you're located or, the type of style that you focus on, or if you have a team or, the types of projects that you do, if you do new construction or just renovations, things like that. So the more website copy you have on your website, the more it's going to give information to Google, but it's also going to give that information to ChatGPT. So when someone is searching for a longer, more detailed phrase in ChatGPT, they're going to be searching through your website copy to see if you have that information that matches their search. So that's where website copy is really important, both for SEO, but also for, AI systems who are reading website copy to find those more specific answers. They're also able to read, whereas on like Google, you have, one page that may be ranking for a specific keyword, but Chat, GPT, and other AI systems, so they're going to read through the entire website. So maybe if you have on, one page that you focus on families and on another page that you're booking for October 2025, Chat GPT can put that together and then just give you, give the searcher that information all in one place. Whereas like Google, it's kind of like ranking one page, per search, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And so I guess what I'm also hearing is gone is the like simplistic, like less
Hmm.
is more theory. Like you
Yep.
kind of want to beef up what's on there now is what I'm
Hmm.
okay. I like
Yeah.
that. So I know today we're going to talk about Pinterest because I feel like it's one of these things where we're constantly, you think you finally have tackled the beast of like, okay, so I'm on the Instagram and okay, I'm on the Facebook
Hmm.
and okay, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm all these places, but there is this often overlooked search engine, which is
Hmm.
Pinterest, and this is where you're focusing. Can you
Hmm.
tell us how we can leverage that to
Yes.
drive quality traffic
Right.
to not just the looky loos?
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that you called it a search engine because Pinterest is a search engine. It does have a lot of social media components where people can like follow you or like your pins, but like the average user is not doing that. They're going to Pinterest to search for, ideas or inspiration or, answers to questions. So it's very similar to Google where you do need to make sure you're incorporating keywords, on your pins and your pin descriptions and everything like that. With Pinterest, you do need to make sure that you have a good amount of content to be putting on Pinterest. I love, working with interior designers because you guys have so many beautiful photos already. So you can take those photos and, link back to different portfolio pages that you have. You can write blog posts. If you have videos that you're turning into like Instagram Reels, you can repurpose those for video pins and then link back to your website from there. So there are different types of content that you can be putting on Pinterest, but you do need to have something. You can't just, pin your home page over and over and over again because people are searching more for information on Pinterest than like, again, interior designer near me. It's less of the location-based searches than it would be on Google. But to reach those, people who, is quality traffic back to your website, not just like getting traffic for the sake of traffic. Having specific information about the types of projects that you're doing or the type of room that you designed, making sure that you're using different types of keywords, testing things out to see like what keywords are resonating with people to help your pins rank. Being clear on like if it is a specific location that you're targeting or maybe a specific region, having that information in the pin, so if someone is searching for location, that pin can rank well. And then also just making sure that your content is more specific to like your style or, the location that you're trying to target and things like that. If you're not trying to reach DIYers, don't have blog post content on like how to pick a paint color. Make sure it's a little bit more strategic with, the types of clients that you're trying to reach. If you're like in Minnesota, then, maybe don't have a lot of like coastal designs because that's not going to really match, most, I would say probably the majority of the people in Minnesota
Yeah,
who are
their
looking to
aesthetic.
redesign their home. Yeah. So making sure everything that you're writing about on your blog posts or the Instagram reels that you're creating that you're going to turn into video pins, make sure everything is aligned with your ideal clients. And then again, using keywords to help those pins rank when people are searching for the specific type of content that you have.
So when you were talking about the like geography of it, so if we're
Mhm.
doing a blog post or we're going to do like something that we should be peppering in where this was taken or what city,
Mhm.
what town, what and then that way you're tackling more areas, or do you want to constantly be hashtagging the areas that you work in on
Mhm.
everything? Which one would you
Yeah, so I would
recommend?
make sure it's specific to, like, if it's a portfolio page, the town that's specific to wherever that house is. And then also, you don't need to use hashtags on Pinterest anymore. That was like something that they started and then they kind of moved away from.
Fell away.
Yeah, so I wouldn't worry about that. So for each pin or each blog post. If it is something that's location specific, I would just focus on that one location. If it's a blog post that is something on like how to choose a paint color, like you don't need to include your location for that because it's not really relevant to that topic and to the person who's going to be clicking on it. So just make sure whatever location that you're targeting is relevant to the piece of content that you're putting on Pinterest.
Okay. And if there was one small SEO tweak that
Mhm.
any designer can make today on their website or Pinterest, what would you recommend?
On the website, I would say towards the top of the page, say that you're an interior designer and say your location. I see this a lot of times where like you say interiors or you say design, but not like together. And then I see a lot of times the location is maybe just in the footer. It's not towards the top of the page. Google will read from top to bottom. So the most important information needs to be at the top of the page. You can definitely like have fun with it. You don't have to just say like interior designer in Philadelphia. You can say like, I'm an interior designer who, focuses on luxury designs in Philadelphia, something like that. You can add your brand voice to it. You don't have to just sound like a robot, but making sure your location and the type of designer you are or, what you focus on is near the top of the page, both for potential clients so they don't have to, again, hunt through your website to find that information, and then also to Google to reinforce that that is the most important information at the page.
So I was going to ask you what the biggest mistake is, but I feel like you just answered it with the last question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I know we touched on the blogs. So
Hmm.
that sounds to me like I think like blogs were in for a while, then they went away for a while, and I know we
Hmm.
utilize them on our website. Is that something that you are recommending as a better way to keep update on your website instead of revamping because it
Hmm.
is so costly
Yeah.
to revamp every time? Is
Hmm.
that something that like I'm hearing that that's probably a better way to keep your SEO
Hmm.
current?
Yeah, so I just recommend blogging. I would say blogging strategically at least once a month. You don't
Okay.
need to be blogging every day. Google is focusing more on quality than quantity. And I say blog once a month strategically because a lot of times people will have blog posts that maybe features a project or behind the scenes of a project, but the language in the blog post isn't something that people are typically searching for if you're just showcasing a recent project. More strategic blog posts would be like, talking about different contractors in your area that you love working with that you recommend, or maybe, five furniture stores that, are great for luxury pieces in your area. Things that people would be searching for who are kind of like in the mindset of, wanting to work with an interior designer. And if you're able to, making those like more localized types of searches. So I would do those at least once a month. If you're able to do a little bit more than that, you can, but you don't need to go crazy and do every day for a week and then get so stressed out and then never touch your blog ever again.
Yeah, like it's the give yourself or donate an hour to your
Yeah.
marketing a week or whatever the case may be. And then if that's
Mhm.
if that's what a designer has, then put that towards, well, listen, if you don't have time, I think that's a great problem to have. If you're that busy, then
Yeah.
you talk to
Yeah.
Julia about how she can help you out with that. But if you have an hour, then that obviously would be something you can focus on. And maybe now that is
Mhm.
how you can utilize some of these AI tools in your business, and they
Mhm.
can help you write something or whatever the case may be to free up that time. But it sounds like the blogs are something that needs to be done. Like I know that's what we added here, and the metrics have changed colossally in the website. Just having
Mhm.
like something happening versus it hadn't been touched in 2 years since it
Mhm.
was made. And, to your point, we have lots of pretty pictures, but they come with such a big price point to have these pictures. And
Yeah.
then you have to pay someone to fix up the website. And then it's like this constant
Mhm.
thing. Whereas if you have someone who can, I'm not techie, nor do I have time, nor I want to be. So I don't even know how she attaches them into, but I'm sure that's where all of your expertise comes in
Yeah.
of how to attach them into the websites or into
Mhm.
Pinterest or LinkedIn or all the good things. Okay. So how long does it normally take? So you've made these changes, you've given an hour to, a week to putting in some effort into SEO.
Mhm.
How long should you allow yourself to wait for the SEO to kind of kick in
Mhm.
or show a return on investment? And I don't mean like literally money. I mean, like you're
Mhm,
watching your numbers increase as your data's and your metrics. Like, what's a fair
mhm.
amount of time to before you get, well, give up. I'm, I've given an hour and it wasn't enough. So, how
Mhm,
much should we give ourselves? What's that grace period
mhm.
like?
Yeah, so I will say it typically takes Google at least a few weeks to even notice that you've made changes on your website. So it's not going to be like you hit publish and then like immediately jump in the rankings. So definitely give it at least a few weeks to make sure Google has, seen the changes. You should start to see progress within like 2 to 3 months. And when I say progress, I mean like, start to see an increase in rankings and traffic. Like it's not going to be overnight you jump from page, 20 to the first spot on Google or anything like that. So it's going to be kind of an ongoing process. You should start to see, some progress after a couple of months. So that's where you need to kind of like keep adding blog posts to your website, keep driving traffic to your website. So the more traffic that you're getting to your site, whether it's from, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever, the more it's going to help your rankings in Google because it signals to Google that people are interested in your website, especially if they're engaging with your website for a long time. So this is where you don't want to be like buying traffic from, scammy sites in India or something like that because Google has wised up. They know that those sites are, just robots that are only staying on your site for like zero point 0.0 seconds and they're kind of like weeding that traffic out. So you do need to make sure it's, high quality, engaged traffic. But the more traffic you get to your site, the more it's going to help your ranking. So you don't want to just like hit publish on your website and then, just sit there twiddling your thumbs for 2 months, hoping to see some progress. You do want to make sure you're being active, marketing in other places or, with PR, with blogging, things like that to help you get, some of that traffic to help, increase your rankings a little bit faster.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't realize that that was a thing. I knew it was for a
Mhm.
long time on Instagram, and I knew that that was like shunned, but I didn't realize that was also a thing for a website. That's wild. So, and
Mhm.
then, so the 2 to 3 months is interesting because, right now I know that the industry is a little quiet. We've had all these like trade war talks, and
Mhm.
it's a little scary for everybody to be spending money. So, the first thing as an entrepreneur, we all like bloop, close to our chest, don't spend any money.
Mhm.
But the reality is that when people start, getting free of this
Mhm.
like this kind of thing that's hanging over us right now, you don't want to not be promoting your business in a
Right.
way that furthers you when people do start Googling.
Mhm.
So I like what you said there, like 2 to 3 months. So if you're thinking about it now, you are
Mhm.
actually really looking 3 to 6 months out the
Yeah.
road. So like, plan ahead. So that said, is there a down, like I know a lot of people who invest in like Google Ads or
Mhm.
they bring themselves to the first page, I guess, if that's the right verbiage. But how do
Mhm.
you know where you would rank? Like, I'm quite
Mhm.
sure every designer will have Googled their own website to check on it or to see if everything.
Yeah.
So you will pop up if you do your website,
Right.
it's going to
Mhm.
pop up. How would you know where you rank?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I will say when you are searching for, interior designer near me to see like where you're ranking, Google is taking into consideration your physical location. So if you are in your interior design studio,
Yes, as I
then
am.
obviously
Yes.
you're the closest.
Right. Yes. Like magic
They're
like that. Yeah.
yeah. They also know like which websites you have visited previously. So if you visit
Yes.
your website a lot, then they're going to know that. So I will say those results are going to be skewed. I recommend setting up Google Search Console. A lot of people have heard of Google Analytics, but not many people have heard of Google
Hmm.
Search Console. But it is very similar to Google Analytics, where they're tracking all this data for you. It's totally free. And this is only traffic coming from Google. So it's going to track the keywords that you're ranking for, how much traffic you're getting for the different keywords, what your ranking is. You can track your progress over time. You can also see if there are any what's called indexing errors. So if Google is having any issues, reading things on your site, if there are any broken links from pages that you've previously deleted, or if there are any pages that, you may have accidentally selected a setting that's actually blocking Google from being able to read that page. You can see that in Google Search Console as well. So basically, any information that you need to know about how Google is crawling your website, what you're ranking for, how much traffic you're getting, which pages are ranking on Google, which ones aren't. It's going to be in Google Search Console. And it is also, it's not going to track any back data. So it's only going to start tracking the data from the moment you set it up. So this is
Got it.
another thing where you don't want to wait 2 to 3 months.
Yes,
Want to
do it
set it
now.
up?
Yeah.
Yeah, set it up today and then check it in 2 to 3 months to see, how your site has progressed.
Now, when you're talking about Pinterest, is there a way on Pinterest? I know when I
Mhm,
can see how many people pinned or
mhm,
whatever, but is there an analytics page there as well where you can see if
mhm.
your content is, okay. So,
Yeah, so in Pinterest, they have their own like native Pinterest analytics. So you can check your data. They only track the data, I think, from the past year. So it's not going to go, you're not going to be able to see from, like January 2021. But you do want to make sure that you have your website claimed on Pinterest so that way you can track the data specifically for your website. Because if you're pinning, if you have like boards for clients and you're pinning lots of inspiration from, other pinners, it's going to be tracking all of that data from all of those pins. So you're not going to have an accurate look at how your website specifically is performing. So you want to make sure you claim your website on Pinterest. All it is just like adding this line of code in the header of your homepage. And then you can filter out the traffic by your website specifically. You can also see the exact pins that are getting saves, getting traffic to your website, getting impressions. So it has lots of different, data points that you can check in Pinterest analytics.
so I know, like, okay, so like you mentioned the geographic thing again, meaning like
Mhm,
I'm sitting here in Kleinburg, Ontario, in my studio. If I Google myself, it's going to come up
mhm,
because I'm the closest. But if
mhm,
I was a designer who focuses on virtual design,
mhm,
or I do homes in Florida and Bahamas or
mhm,
wherever, is so it really comes down to the verbiage that's going to be in the content of the website
mhm,
to have all that peppered in.
mhm,
Because if someone Googles, you know, and it's close by, it's going to come up, but that's not your niche market. So it really comes
mhm,
down to making sure that someone is working with you and putting in the right
mhm.
geographic tags that will bring you like the right feedback and the right
Mhm.
people clicking on your okay, got it. Because I was like,
Yeah,
oh, how would
and
that work if I didn't just because I'm here doesn't mean that that's the
right.
only places that we work, but yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say if you do, have maybe a few very different places that, if you like, do your summers in Minnesota and then like winter in Florida and work in both places, you can have two separate services pages for those locations to speak to those specific audiences. Because it's hard for one service page to be able to rank for like Minnesota, Florida, Texas virtual services. It's a lot of weight for one page to carry to
Hmm.
rank on Google. So you can have two different or three different however many locations you're trying to target. Services pages, make sure at least 50% of the copy is different on each of those pages because Google doesn't like what's called duplicate content where you're just like taking the exact same copy, duplicating that page, and then just like changing the location. You do want to make sure that the content is different because they will only look at one of them if it's the exact same, except for maybe a couple of words. But this also doesn't mean that like if you, just serve, I'm just going to use Philadelphia as an example because that's where I am. If you only serve the Philadelphia area, you don't need to like have 20 different pages for like Philadelphia and like, each page for each different suburb of Philadelphia that you serve or each different neighborhood in Philadelphia that you serve. You can just like have Philadelphia or like southeastern Pennsylvania. So I would say just have a few different services pages if you do, kind of serve these very different areas. But if you kind of just are in one area, you don't need to have like a different page for every single neighborhood and suburb that you serve.
Makes sense. Okay, so I know there's a lot of people listening who are now feeling totally overwhelmed and intimidated by SEO, and now they're like, "Oh my God, I know I need it." Can you tell us, Julia, what you do
Yeah.
to help designers
Yes.
who feel like I now know I need this?
Right.
So, what are the services that you offer?
Yeah, so first I'll say you don't need to like change every single thing on your website all at once. Like you can just do one page at a time or like add on, a different services page like once a month. As you have time, you don't need to go crazy and like, completely redo your website in an hour. If you do need help, I do offer a few different SEO services. So I do offer very customized services depending on like, what you need. I work with, websites who have been around for like 10, 15 years, and they do have like, 200 different indexing errors because they've like deleted a lot of pages and products over the years. So I do help with like cleaning up a lot of that stuff. And then like helping you with your, user experience and site speed, and then, optimizing and writing website copy. I also have an SEO setup service that covers the SEO foundation. So if you have a newer website or maybe a smaller website and you just need the SEO foundations and some guidance on, how to maintain your site, and blogging ideas and things like that, that package is good for, kind of the smaller websites or newer websites. And that one just takes about 2 weeks to complete if you kind of want a quick turnaround.
It's amazing. And can you let all the listeners know where they can find you and connect with
Mhm.
you, social media, websites, all the places? And we'll make sure these
Yeah.
are in the show notes for everybody also in case they're driving.
Yeah. Yeah. So pretty much everything you can find at Julia Renee Consulting. So my website is juliareneeconsulting.com. On Instagram, you can find me at Julia Renee Consulting. My email is julia@juliareneeconsulting.com. So pretty much just look for Julia Renee
Yeah.
Consulting and you can find
You
me.
got all of it covered.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. I really
Yeah, thanks
appreciate
for
it.
having me.
Thank
And yeah,
you.
if anyone has any questions too about anything I've mentioned, yeah, just DM me on Instagram or email me, and I'm happy to help.
Perfect. You might be inundated because I know it's a hot topic.
Yeah, that's fine.